When I was a kid, I was afraid to tie my shoes. I just didn't want to do it, and I didn't want to learn how to do it. After all, I was pretty comfortable with my sick Velcro light-up shoes, and nobody was going to take those away from me. Moving forward to my teenage years, I nearly entirely rejected the notion of music theory. There was something sacred about experimenting with an almost random approach and discovering those happy accidents along the way. But after a while, I started to dive in, and since then it's become a great resource for me to pull from to create something new and break through those barriers whenever I'm stuck. That said, I still would really like a new pair of sick Velcro light-up shoes. Howdy doody, buckaroonies, and welcome back to another episode of Morning Coffee with Cameron. Today, I wanted to share a bit of my songwriting process with you because I feel like making some music. I feel like I haven't gotten to make a lot of music lately. Between launching my Patreon thing, making YouTube content, and doing all the other contract work I do, there just hasn't been a whole lot of time to make some music, and today I wanted to change that. But there's one little problem. I have no idea what I want to make today. With that in mind, today I wanted to show you how I pull music just out of thin air, and one of my favorite tools for doing this, because I feel like I get asked about this quite a bit of, how do I start ideas? Can you show me how to make a song from scratch? How do I start ideas that I will finish? Or something along those lines. And today I wanted to show you a few of my favorite techniques for starting ideas, getting something going, and more importantly, getting something going that you can finish. Today's video is brought to you by my friends over at Hooktheory, and I'm very, very excited for this partnership. I have been using Hooktheory myself for years, and it is absolutely one of the most indispensable tools in my arsenal as a producer. Whether I am doing sound design stuff and making loops, and I need to make some stuff in a genre I'm maybe not familiar with, or I'm writing a piece of music and need some new ideas, or on days like today where I want to write something but have no idea what to do, Hooktheory can help you with all of this stuff. Hooktheory is an online resource to learn about music theory, learn to make really awesome chord progressions, and just learn to make better and more effective and powerful pieces of music. There are a ton of great free tools to help you get started and help you write tracks, and there's a few paid resources as well that are excellent to assist you with composing and gathering ideas, as well as learning the fundamental concepts of creating music so that you can have a better understanding of what it is you're doing. Whether you're just getting started with music, or maybe you're more like me and have a pretty good grasp on most theory stuff, but maybe just need some tools to assist you with your process, Hooktheory really has something for everyone, and you should absolutely go check it out. If you want to get started with learning music theory, or you just want some tools to help you finish more music, go check out Hooktheory with my link down in the description below. It's a great way to support the channel because I get a small kickback as well, and you get some awesome tools to write better music, so it's a win-win for everybody. So, step one in Cameron's process of pulling things out of thin air is setting intentions, and I think this is important for most things in life. So, what do I mean by this? I think before we write a piece of music, it's important to sit down and establish our intent, meaning what is it that we want to communicate and do with this piece of music that we're going to write. There's not anything particularly special about this step. It's just a matter of kind of having a moment to meditate on a few ideas. Is there something that's been on your mind lately? Is there something that you've been thinking about? Did you read a particularly interesting part of a book? Did you watch a particularly interesting movie, or a movie with an interesting scene? Did you play a video game that was pretty inspiring? Or maybe you just watched some kind of abstract dance footage or looked at some pieces of artwork that were really resonating with you for some reason. So it's a matter of just clarifying your intentions, and that's really going to frame the idea and give context to everything else that we're going to do. So this, above all else, is probably the most important step, I think. As weird as it may sound, I'm a firm believer in the idea that I don't write music. I simply discover songs. I think there is something very primal and deep-rooted in this kind of universal, constant energy that if you listen to your gut and trust your musical intuition and learn to develop that ability, that's really what's going to carry you through, because you're going to tap into this flow of something bigger, and that's where really great musical ideas come from, I think. It's not about forcing yourself to write something, it's about letting yourself ride along with the journey. With that comes step 2, it's time to set the vibe and get in that creative headspace. Typically, I like to write music very early in the morning or very late at night. Sometimes I'll work on tracks in the afternoon, but I find that super early in the morning or super late at night is really where my creative brain starts to shine. With that in mind, I'll typically just turn on a couple of my hipster Edison lamps and keep things fairly dim and quiet because I feel like this puts me in a headspace where I'm free of distractions and external stimuli. I might put on maybe some mood lighting using my cool lights where I might make the room, blue or orange or whatever kind of color is speaking to me for whatever it is I'm working on. But typically I try to keep things very minimal and wind down and very chill. Do whatever it is that helps you get in the zone. If it's opening up the window, letting all the light in and staring out into the sunset, that's fine. Maybe it's just something simple like making a cup of tea, lighting a couple of candles, turning on an oil diffuser, or whatever it is that gets you in the right headspace to set yourself up for a successful songwriting session. The older I get and the more music I write, the more I find that it's helpful to try and remove my musical ego and typical inclinations at the start of the whole process and provide myself a challenge when it comes to writing music. I'm really interested in things like generative music and chance composition. I think it's super cool to provide a set of rules and then the system is going to spit out some music at me. But what I think is particularly interesting is the idea of reversing those rules a little bit, which is what we're going to be doing here now. What I like to do is provide just a set of parameters. In this case, we've got our modes here, and then we're going to give ourselves a random choice, and we're going to make a piece of music using whatever the computer tells us to do. So let's see what we've got here. Okay, so we've got Dorian. Let's flick over to keys, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, let's go. E, okay, so we have E, Dorian. Interesting, let's check it out. All right, so we've got E, Dorian. When it comes to starting off tracks, I typically start one of two ways. I will pull up something like Piano Tech and work from a piano to write a kind of piano-centric piece, pull that into the DAW, pull it apart and make it into something else, or I will start with pads and textures to make kind of an atmosphere. In this case, we're gonna roll with Piano Tech and talk a little bit about the Dorian mode. So E Dorian, what is it? It is E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, and E again. It is the happiest of the minor scales. In fact, if we get rid of this minor third, the G here, you would almost think it's a major scale. If we played the major third, that sounds very at home here. But this minor third provides some interesting tension in this bottom half of the scale, and in the upper half of the scale, very bright and chipper and cheery. So it's an interesting blend, and I think that's why Dorian is such a classic mode for a lot of film and game music and, establishing a theme and whatever, and I think it's also a very well-established Venus theory classic at this point. So we're going to be playing an E Dorian. Which is that beauty. So that is the Dorian mode, and let's figure out what we're gonna do with it. Now we have the basic idea down. We're gonna write something in E Dorian, and this is where hook theory is really gonna come in handy. Let's hop over to the resources and maybe start off with something like trends. So trends is a really cool tool where it just says, if you're using this chord, this is what is most likely to come next, and then here's a bunch of examples. So let's go into the key here. This is going to be in the key of E, but these are all majors. So we're in E Dorian, which is not E major. So we need the relative major, which should be D major. I'm 99% certain in that. If we hop here, we can click on E minor. So this D major is probably right. E minor, we've got a couple things that could come next. 13% chance of D, 16 G, 16 A, 9% F sharp minor, 18% B minor, 26% other. And then we've got a bunch of different examples here. So we can try and experiment with some different combinations here and just say we could try this to this and this to this, or we could pull up some examples, and we've got a bunch of ideas here that are already laid out that we could just kind of borrow and build something from. So let's maybe try out a few of these ideas really quick. So let's try E minor to maybe A, and then let's hold that E minor on top and see what we get. So that's okay. That's maybe a bit poppy though. Let's try E minor to F sharp minor. That's interesting. That's kind of tense. E minor to D maybe. Kind of cool, but maybe a bit too Hans Zimmery. Let's try E to G, I guess. I'm maybe kind of feeling that, you know, that maybe flirts with the Dorian-ness a little bit. So let's roll with that, but maybe we could explore a few other ideas here. Another really good resource in hook theory is to go to the cheat sheets. So let's go all cheat sheets up here and let's find Dorian, and E Dorian is right there. Let's click in here and see what we've got. So we've got the 20 most popular chords. Here is the scale, here's the key signature, here's the relative keys, so D major, ya boy was right. 20 most popular chords, we can click these to hear them. And maybe just kind of get some ideas of what we could do with Dorian. Here's some examples of songs in E Dorian, and then here are some of the most popular chord progressions. So let's maybe listen to a few of these. Not really digging that, but I do really like that. That has a very strong, you know, sense of coming home or something. You know, it's very epic, but it's not too epic where it's like, you know, in a world of music and stuff. So maybe this one. So I'm kind of digging that idea, and I think that we can work with that. That definitely sounds a little bit primary. I mean, you know, I'm all for 4 chords and the truth, don't get me wrong, but for a Venus theory track and the stuff I typically like, this is a bit too easy, so we're gonna spice this up a little bit. At this point, I think we have the rough idea of what we're gonna do. So let's go to the HookPad musical sketchpad, and this is really where the action is. So we're gonna go just into the free version here, because you can do all the cool stuff with the free version. The paid version does have some really cool tools, but let's just build something here. So first off, we're in the key of E Dorian, and we're gonna start pulling together some chords. So I think we had E minor, G, we're gonna go to the A, and then maybe kind of cap things off on a B minor there. You know, the 5 to the 1 usually works pretty well. Maybe rather than jumping right into that though, we could kind of do that later, and then here we could like maybe do something with like D, kind of get that big upwards, and then bring things down with that A and kind of lead that back. So we have this progression that's gonna, let's just sort of stretch that out there, maybe something like that. This is gonna be a progression that's gonna feel almost infinite. And I think that's kind of what we want is, you know, this woozy sense of infinity and whatever, you know, that's kind of the feeling I like to try and establish in a lot of my tracks, is stuff that cycles and progresses. It's not something that necessarily has like a typical da 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 da, you know, that kind of thing. So let's take a listen to this and see what we've got. So that's not too terrible, and I think we can start to mold this a bit. I think we're gonna change the timings of some of these things, and let's start experimenting with some more interesting chords here. One really easy idea, especially since we're in Dorian, is maybe not to give away that it's minor right away, so we could go and just check the box for a sus2. G major is G major, that's a bit boring. Maybe we could try an inversion. And that's starting to feel pretty epic already. So what have we got? A little bit trite. We could try that's kind of interesting. Nice, I like that. And it's interesting because this is actually something that's chromatic. That's G sharp is not in the key of E Dorian. So we've got, we're establishing that it is sort of Dorian-ish because of the sus2 into the G, because the G is the minor third, but then we're walking directly from that minor third into that major third. So that's a spicy boy right there. We're just gonna keep tweaking here for a minute, and I'll see you when I've got something. After a little bit of tweaking, here's what I got. And I think that's actually sounding pretty cool. And I really like this though. That major third being worked in there is really not something I think I would have thought of on my own. Another cool tool though is if we're maybe building off this, we can start to use things like the magic tool, which is part of the paid tool set, where it can start to suggest ideas. If we're in this key, this is going to occur a lot of the times. We can search through different chords, we can find different tone sets and start to find things that, flirt with melody a bit more, because we could even start writing our melody in here. There's bass sets, there's even some kind of pre-built progressions you can use to start making a piece of music. There's a whole lot to hook theory, and it's really, really cool stuff. And if you are maybe not able to play or interpret something like this, you can even download this as a MIDI file if you have the paid version. So we can download MIDI, a score tab, a lead, MP3, or even a WAV file. So that's actually pretty cool. And there's all sorts of tools here. If we open the band editor, maybe we could kind of listen to this in a bit more context. So let's try. Now, while I don't think that's going to win any awards, that's a really handy tool if you're writing something and need to frame something with a bit of context, or maybe you're just kind of like wanting to pitch a demo. This is a really great way to just build that up and make a piece of music. So let's pull this idea into Piano Tech and hear how it sounds. Okay, so we've got our idea here. We've got E, that goes into, I believe it was G over B. And then we're gonna work that E over G sharp. Cool, and then it was D, and then A, and then B, I think, or maybe it was B, and then A. And then we work back to E, something like that. So we've got, let's try that out, and kind of hear the final idea here. So that's where we're gonna run into trouble there. So maybe what we could do is establish this over like an E sus2 arpeggiated thingy. Because then we're not showing this minor third and we're not showing this major third either. So we're not totally giving things away, even though this is out of E Dorian. Cool, so I think that works. And the thing to keep in mind here, though, is that your own subjective tastes and inclinations and styles are what determine the final thing. I know that this on its own, it sounds like just piano music, or like even maybe like sort of classical-ish or jazzy or whatever you would call it. But I think the core idea is that as long as we have a good foundation, a good chord progression, a decent melody idea, and a solid piece of music, that will translate into whatever genre it is that you feel called to make with it. If this feels like a pop song to you, do it. If it feels like a really cool melodic dubstep thing, do it. If it's weird IDM, do it. So we're gonna take this whole idea and we're gonna turn that into some Venus Theory music. With all of the bits and bobs out of the way, let's turn this into a Venus Theory track. So of course, no Venus Theory track is complete without a pad that is absolutely drowned in reverb. So loving that, absolutely feeling that. Let's start building on this idea. To start spicing things up, let's build on this with a sine arpeggiated layer and a bit of rev intensity and layer that on top of the pad. Loving that vibe. All right, let's keep going. Let's figure this out and make some motion. Now, as we all know, it can't be a Venus Theory track without a big, thick, greasy, reesy boy underneath all that. So let's see what this sounds like. Digging that, really fills out that bottom end. And I think we've got pretty much all the foundation here that we need to build this out. So let's just flesh out a couple more quick ideas. And we're back. Okay, first off, I added some cool strings here. Just playing some harmony stuff together. Really strong major third there. Kind of a resolve, and works back home. And that was kind of a trick I picked up in a Hook Theory book too. There was some interesting stuff just talking about harmony and voicings, and I think that really lends itself well to this, and it feels like a very effective melody on top of things. Finally, just to clean things up and make it a track, I've added in some drums here. I just picked some drums from my latest patron pack, which is called Digital, and the drums sound like this. Some gorgeous perfect plate on that snare. And let's go over to like the glitchy bits here. So I think we've kind of built the track. So let's take a listen to more or less the final idea here. Bring in some nice arpeggiated things, maybe more strings, piano. But I think overall we've got a really solid thing we can start creating from there. And that's really all there is to it. I think that this process and this approach is a lot of fun, and it's a good way to remove that barrier of what do I do first by just providing yourself a challenge, giving yourself some ideas, and starting to pull music out of thin air. And I think Hook Theory is an absolutely excellent tool to assist you along the way with this process. Speaking of, for those of you who stuck around, I do have a giveaway. I have 3 copies of Hook Theory's full beans, everything access, all Mountain Dew Mega Gamer Bundle to give away. And if you want to enter to win, you can join my Discord with the link down in the description, enter in the Hook Theory giveaway chat, and you can win access to everything that Hook Theory has to offer. That will end 7 days from the date this video goes live, so be sure to enter right now if you're seeing this. Big thank you to Hook Theory for sponsoring today's video, and of course, thank you for watching. So that is a look at how I kind of approach this whole idea of pulling music out of nowhere. Like I've said probably a million times on this channel, I think a lot of this process of writing music, even when you're not inspired or you've got writer's block or you don't know where to begin, is simply about thinking less and doing more. It's about trusting that musical intuition and your gut instinct and just going with whatever it is that lets you tap into that kind of universal flow of stuff and getting into that phase of discovery to find a piece of music that's just waiting for you to write it. With that, I hope you enjoyed the video, I hope you learned something, and I hope this inspires you to get out there and make something awesome. In the meantime, I think I'm gonna get back to work and finish this.